This is it. Thor The Last God, played by a cult classic and the one and only Eric Kramer. This is brought to you by MTV FanFics, the last fanfic movie tie-in for the highly anticipated Avengers 2000 sequel. I would highly suggest you to wear headphones as you will have a better experience. But anyways, as always guys, let's get in to the fanfiction.
Thor has just defeated a frost giant who was terrorizing the inhabitants of a local village in Iceland. It was 900 AD, and the god of thunder helped the villagers who were terrorized by several frost giants. Hearing their prayers, Thor emerged at the village and easily defeated the frost giants. Thanking him, the villagers prepared food, ale, wine, and women for Thor. He then suddenly heard a girl screaming from a distance. Thor rushed to the girl and asked her what happened. She said that she saw someone's head floating across the river. He then rushed to the river and was shocked to see that it was indeed a head of a former living being. Thor picked up the head and was puzzled when he recognized that the head belonged to another god's head. It was a Native American god's head. The villagers said that they heard tales of someone who was killing gods across the universe. However, they dismissed it as a myth, as a god killer does not even exist in the first place and was just merely an old wives' tale. Thor figured the same and told the villagers not to worry. As long as the god of thunder is present, all dangers will be handled by him. He ordered the villagers to prepare a fitting funeral for the dead god. Even though he told the villagers that it was nothing serious, he could not comprehend the fact of a god killer who was lurking somewhere. After the funeral, Thor left the village and decided to stay around in Iceland for a while to see if anything was fishy. He accompanied a group of Vikings who were on a raiding mission to Russia, but he was disguised himself as a mere soldier. During their journey, they found several Slavic gods being beheaded. It confirmed his suspicion that a god killer does exist somewhere. The god of thunder continued to join the Vikings in their raids till one day when they were being ambushed by someone who had lizard-like looks. The entire Viking crew were being slaughtered by the stranger except for Thor himself. The creature then told Thor that he despised all gods and vowed to kill them until gods no longer exist in the universe. Thor said that his actions are treacherous and gods exist for the greater good. The creature said that the gods were never there when he needed them, and they need to pay for that price. They both clashed in an intense battle, and was a stalemate. Thor then conjured a powerful lightning blast and knocked both of them unconscious. The creature retreated into a nearby cave where Thor tracked him down. In the cave, they both battled again, and this time, the creature used a sword to attack him. The sword sliced Thor's chest, and he groaned in pain. Thor was shocked as no mere sword should be able to hurt him, and the creature laughed at him that it is no ordinary sword. Thor used his Mjolnir to summon enough electricity bolt to stun the creature, knocking him out cold. He then picked up the sword and realized that there was something black and a nefarious feeling. The son of Odin felt a sense of malice running in him when he held the sword. He then quickly gained his senses again and threw the sword away. He then interrogated the creature and demanded to know his name and the sword. The creature introduced himself as Gorr, the God Butcher. He is being called the God Butcher as he has been killing and torturing gods for the last 9 centuries. Thor was shocked and said that he heard of no such being capable of slaying gods. Gorr then replied that with the help of the sword, he was in fact capable of doing so. He explained that since he was a child, he was taught to trust and believe in the gods. However, the gods never answered his prayers, resulting in his entire family being killed, and he was left to survive on a desolate planet. He found a soulmate and had kids, but they all perished due to starvation or natural disasters. Since then, he denounced the existence of gods and cursed them. While he was traveling the vast desert after the death of his last son to famine, Gorr witnessed a dark elder god battling with another god in gold-clad armor. The god in the golden armor flew down, came crashing near Gorr, and begged for help. At the same time, the other elder god flew to the other side of the desert, but his sword came crashing near Gorr. Gorr picked up the sword, and the sword instantly bonded with him. The sword looked like a huge mass of living darkness. Gorr felt a huge surge of power and rage within him. With the sword bonded with him, Gorr took it and slayed the god in golden armor before vowing to slay all gods across the cosmos. He called the sword as the Necro Sword. Thor never heard of the sword nor such a god slayer. He said to Gorr that his crimes will end now, and as Thor was about to use his Mjolnir to send a lightning bolt to him, Gorr broke from the shackles that were binding him and picked up his sword. He grazed Thor with the sword before fleeing and was never seen again. Thor wanted to chase after him, but realized that the sword has drained his energy and decided not to pursue him further. Since then, Gorr the God Butcher was not heard anymore. In present day, Thor was battling against Enchantress and Scourge the Executioner. She wanted to claim the throne of Asgard as Odin has slumbered in a deep Odin sleep. With Thor, the ruler of Asgard, and his brother Loki seemingly disappeared, Enchantress seemed this was a golden opportunity for vengeance on Thor. She even recruited the help of the rock trolls, the frost giants, and Ulik, the leader of the rock trolls. As Thor summoned the Warriors 3 alongside Lady Sif to battle with the Asgardian royal guards, he realized something was amiss with Ulik, the frost giants, and the rock trolls. They were more physically enhanced and had a black color symbiote-like on them. Thor suddenly remembered his past encounter with Gorr when he used his necro sword. He dismissed it as it was impossible for both of them to originate from the same source. Thor clashed with Ulik in a tight battle. Enchantress fought with Lady Sif, and the Warriors 3 fought the rock trolls. After an intense battle and seemingly almost ending in a stalemate, the king of Asgard knew that the enemies were underestimated and that they were not the same enemies they always fought. Thor then used his Mjolnir to summon a powerful lightning bolt, zapping all of his enemies. The zap caused the black-like symbiote to vaporize from his enemies. With most of the enemies weakened, Thor battled again with Ulik, but this time easily defeating them. The Enchantress and Scourge fled, leaving the others behind. Thor then interrogated Ulik, and asked where he'd gotten the symbiotes or black-like creatures. He said that he wasn't aware of how they were infected with it. All he knew was that the Enchantress approached him, asking him for his help to fight against Asgard. As he and his armies agreed, she then released a dark-like matter that consumed and overpowered their minds. They couldn't think much, but felt a sudden urge of power and rage. The rest was history. Thor knew that the same dark matter or symbiote was the same that belonged to Gorr, the God Butcher's sword. However, many centuries have passed since their last encounter, and he knew that if he wanted to get answers, he had to track down the Enchantress. Thor told his mother that he needed to attend to certain matters urgently, and his mother oversees taking care of Asgard for now. The god of thunder eventually managed to track down the Enchantress and Scourge. After battling with them temporarily, Thor managed to subdue both. Confronting with Enchantress, she told Thor that while she was wanting to destroy Asgard, she was approached by a mysterious creature. The creature offered her a jar of black, alive matter that was the capability to enhance its users. He said that by having it, they can emerge as victorious against Asgard. The only thing he wants in return is the chance to slay all the Asgardian gods if they are victorious. This confirmed Thor's suspicion that Gorr the God Butcher has indeed resurfaced. Just then, Thor heard weird sounds coming from out of the place where he was interrogating the Enchantress. Thor went out and was attacked by semi-sentient bestial creatures. The creatures were reptilian-like and had sharp claws and fangs. Thor has never seen such creatures in his life. The creatures then formed their limbs into weapons like axes and swords and charged at Thor. The creatures overwhelmed Thor at first before he heard a man commanding the creatures to retreat back into the sword. Thor knew the voice was familiar and looked up to see that it was none other than Gorr the God Butcher. standing and looking at him. Gorr said that it had been many centuries since they last clashed. Even though he had the necro sword with him in their last clash, he was unable to defeat Thor and felt humiliated. Gorr learned more about the sword and found out that he could use the sword to create beasts or symbiote-like creatures that were able to rival the gods to a stalemate. Calling them as the Black Berserkers, his creatures would devour and easily destroy the gods as they were massive in numbers. He even managed to enslave the time gods who were guarding the Pool of Forevers. The Pool of Forevers could allow its user to travel back and forth via time travel. This allowed Gorr to raid and kill gods across multiple timelines and universe. His grand plan was to create the God Bomb, an artificial planet made of broken planets and core of the stars. The God Bomb would be capable of exterminating all gods across the entirety of the time stream, from the very beginning till the end. Ever since his Black Berserkers came to life, Gorr would either kill or imprison several gods as slaves to mine the desolate planets and cores of the stars to build his God Bomb. By conquering Asgard, his final piece of the God Bomb would be completed, as Asgard possesses more than enough energy to empower his God Bomb. Gorr also said that his revenge against Thor has always been something that bugged him ever since their first encounter. Thor refused to allow Gorr to destroy Asgard and fought against Gorr. Gorr then manifested several Black Berserkers that overwhelmed Thor yet again. With Thor weakened badly and unable to continue fighting, Gorr said he was a disappointment and slaying him would be meaningless as Thor was not at his full strength. Instead, he would just let Thor to rot and die. Gorr then used his necro sword to stab Thor in the eye and chopped one of his arms, with Thor groaning in pain. Gorr said that Ragnarok will appear in the form of him. Gorr then entered the dungeon where Enchantress and Scourge were held before he slaughtered them both. Gorr then manifested hundreds of Black Berserkers and ordered them to charge against Asgard. With Thor laying bleeding on the ground, Gorr told Thor that he would experience hell, as when he is done with Asgard, the 9 realms will be his target, and lastly the God Bomb will be the final chapter. Soon, the destruction of Asgard began with the Gorr's manifested minions attacking it. Thor meanwhile was knocked out unconscious due to the excessive bleeding from his chopped arm and missing eye. While he was unconscious, Thor found himself in another dimension that seemed dreamlike. Thor saw 2 people standing across from him. He approached them and was shocked to see a younger and older version of him. He recognized the younger version of him from around 900 AD when he first clashed with Gorr. However, he could not recognize the older version. The older version of himself told him that he is the future version of Thor, where Asgard was already a desolate place. The older version of Thor said that Asgard is on the brink of destruction now, and if he does nothing to stop it, he will be remembered as the last ruler of Asgard in the history books. The current Thor refuses to acknowledge it, but he said that he is now powerless and doesn't have much strength. The older Thor scolded him and said that Thor has proven that he could turn the odds against him multiple times. With Odin still stuck in the Odin sleep, Thor is the last bastion of the universe to not only stop the destruction of Asgard, but also prevent the massacre of the other gods across the universe. Thor said that he cannot do it alone, and the other 2 Thors agreed to help him out. They approached him and were absorbed into him. Thor then woke up and realized that his arm, which was chopped, has been replaced with an artificial arm made from a destroyer, a formidable Asgardian weapon. He now has an eye patch for a lost eye. Reborn as King Thor, he now knows time is of the essence and immediately charged to Asgard. With fires across the building and multiple citizens of Asgard already slaughtered by Gorr's minions, a powerful lightning bolt emerged in the center of Asgard, destroying permanently the Black Berserkers. Gorr was taken aback by this and was shocked to see Thor present there. However, he was no mere Thor and was now King Thor. Gorr laughed and said that he now would be able to slay one of the greatest gods of all time, and the God Bomb will soon go off. King Thor and Gorr, the God Butcher, clashed in an intense battle, while the Warriors 3, Lady Sif, and other Asgardians held off the Black Berserkers. King Thor managed to channel a powerful lightning bolt and knock off the necro sword from Gorr's hand. He then used his Mjolnir and smashed Gorr to the ground. Mustering whatever strength he had left, Gorr summoned a giant black berserker called the Black Leviathan, which tried to consume King Thor. King Thor used his powers from his Mjolnir and struck the massive beast countless times, but was not successful. Gorr laughed at Thor and said that his impending doom was near. As he stood his ground, Gorr felt a sharp pain piercing his chest. He saw the necro sword piercing his chest. He then heard a voice telling him that he had finally gotten back what was rightfully his. Gorr turned behind and saw that it was the Elder God he witnessed clashing with the god in golden armor many centuries ago. The man said that he is the owner of the necro sword, Knull, and has traveled across multiple timelines searching for it. Now he has what is rightfully his. The Black Leviathan collapsed, and the other Black Berserkers re-entered his necro sword. Introducing himself as the God of Darkness, Knull has launched a genocidal campaign against all the other gods and living beings. Knull chopped Gorr's head off, and then summoned a horde of symbiote dragons, and he clashed with the King Thor. Realizing that Knull was an entirely different level than Gorr, King Thor knew that fighting him and the dragon symbiotes would result in his defeat. Thor and the King in Black exchanged mammoth blows, with the God of Thunder knocking out his opponent's jaw by swinging Mjolnir. Thor was then stabbed in the back in the similar manner as Gorr by Knull with the necro sword. Knull taunted Thor that whatever version of Thor is, he will always be bested by the true God of Darkness. Thor dropped down, and Knull started summoning a black hole to devour King Thor alongside the entire Asgard. With King Thor groaning in pain and not capable of stopping Knull, the black hole, which was about to devour Asgard, grew larger. A man then approached Knull and started telling him the story of every heroic deed that Thor has done from the very beginning. Intrigued, Knull said that those heroic deeds will now be forgotten forever with the destruction of Asgard. King Thor was surprised to see who the brave man was, but noticed that his speech resembled his brother Loki. King Thor sees this as an opportunity to charge his Mjolnir. After a while, Knull said that he's bored with the tales of Thor, and that the tales of Knull should be made well known. He turned around as his black hole from the necro sword was about to be complete, before King Thor unleashed a full might of God Tempest from within the Mjolnir, destroying the core of the necro sword. The all-black symbiote, which was the primary source of the sword's power. The black hole and all the black symbiote was seemingly destroyed. The other symbiote dragons seemingly perished, leaving Knull alone. Knowing that he is unable to fight against an empowered King Thor and the destruction of his all-black symbiote, Knull said that he will return soon enough. And when that happens, King Thor will no longer be alive. Knull then disappeared among the midst in somewhere unknown. Loki approached King Thor and was questioned by him on his disappearance all this time. Loki said that he heard stories of a god of darkness approaching Asgard and decided to investigate it. King Thor said that he was glad to have Loki back at his side. He then told the other Asgardians to help restore their kingdom while he needs to destroy Gorr's God Bomb for good. Channeling the power of the star and God Tempest, Thor freed all the enslaved gods from there before exploding the planetoid where the God Bomb was held. With the God Bomb gone for good and Gorr killed, King Thor knows that Knull will return one day. However, this time, he will be more than prepared. Somewhere in another dimension, Kang receives news on a weapon necro sword forged from the first symbiote. all black, which has already been reconstructed by Knull himself in the Abyss. Kang thought to himself that it would be interesting to possess the necro sword, which would easily allow him to slay gods and cosmic powers in his conquest for universe domination.